Samantha Rivers thought her teenage son, Tyler, was just a quiet boy. But one morning, that trust shattered forever when Tyler murdered his own mother and shared the horrifying aftermath on Snapchat. Samantha Rivers was the kind of mother everyone admired. Her days began before sunrise, preparing breakfast for her family, organizing school lunches, and getting her 16-year-old son, Tyler, ready for school. She worked full-time at a local bank, yet she always made time to help Tyler with homework, attend parent-teacher meetings, and volunteer at community events. Friends and neighbors often commented on how well put together Samantha was, describing her as warm, patient, and endlessly devoted to her family. Her home was tidy, welcoming, and filled with the aroma of home-cooked meals. On the surface, the Rivers family seemed to live a life that many could only aspire to: safe, loving, and picture-perfect. Tyler, her only child, mirrored this outward perfection. At school, he earned good grades and participated in a few clubs, often seen as polite and well-behaved. On social media, he appeared like a normal teenager, sharing memes, pictures with friends, and occasional snapshots of hobbies like skateboarding and gaming. But beneath this calm exterior, there were subtle signs that Tyler was struggling with emotions he could not yet control. His friends noticed he was becoming increasingly secretive, spending long hours alone in his room and often locking the door behind him. He rarely spoke about his feelings, and when he did, his words were carefully measured, never revealing what truly churned inside. Samantha, deeply trusting of her son, never suspected that Tyler was hiding anything dangerous. She believed that teenagers go through phases and that the occasional mood swings or bouts of solitude were part of growing up. She encouraged him to explore his interests, bought him the latest tech gadgets, and allowed him access to social media, believing it was a harmless way to connect with peers. Yet the very tools she thought would help him socialize became the medium through which he would later broadcast acts of unimaginable violence. Friends and neighbors would later describe Tyler as intense and sometimes difficult to read, often immersed in his thoughts. While he smiled and joked at school, at home, there was a tension in the air, a quiet energy that went unnoticed by those outside the household. The contrast between the Rivers' public life and the private undercurrents within their home was stark. What seemed like a safe, loving environment had begun to mask a growing darkness. Unseen and unspoken, the tension built gradually, setting the stage for a tragedy that would shatter the illusion of a perfect family and send shockwaves through the entire community. The morning started like any other, but something felt off. Samantha Rivers didn't come down for breakfast, a rare occurrence in the otherwise orderly household. Her husband, Michael, initially assumed she had overslept, but as the minutes ticked by, concern began to grow. He knocked on her bedroom door and called her name, but there was no response. The door was locked, and when Tyler appeared in the hallway, he seemed unusually calm, almost indifferent. His composure was unsettling, a quiet contrast to the panic that began to take hold in Michael's mind. It wasn't long before the police arrived at the Rivers' home, responding to a concerned call from Michael. What they discovered inside Samantha's bedroom would shock not just the family, but the entire community. The scene was horrifying. Samantha's lifeless body lay in a position that suggested she had been overpowered in her own home. The room bore the marks of a struggle, but the most disturbing revelation was not just the act of violence, it was how it had been documented. Tyler had captured images of the aftermath on his phone, posting them to Snapchat with a sense of detachment. These posts, sent to a select circle of friends, turned a personal tragedy into a chilling public display. Authorities were stunned by the audacity and coldness of the act, as if Tyler wanted the world to witness what he had done. Investigators quickly realized that social media had provided them with a direct window into the events that had unfolded. Tyler's posts revealed not only the crime itself but also the mindset behind it. Each photograph and caption suggested a calculated awareness, a desire for recognition even in the darkest circumstances. Friends and classmates were horrified, struggling to understand how a boy they had known as quiet and polite could commit such a brutal act and then share it so casually online. The community, previously proud of the Rivers family, now faced the grim reality that appearances could be deceiving. As the investigation deepened, more unsettling details came to light. Tyler's online activity in the days leading up to the murder hinted at careful planning and obsession with violent content. He had researched methods, purchased items from local stores, and meticulously rehearsed his actions, all while maintaining the appearance of a normal teenager. The contrast between Tyler's outward behavior and his inner turmoil left everyone questioning how such a tragedy could occur unnoticed. The combination of premeditated violence and the boldness of posting it online made this case unprecedented, leaving a scar not only on the family but on the wider community as they tried to grapple with the shocking events. The investigation into Samantha Rivers' murder quickly became a high-profile case, drawing attention from local news outlets and law enforcement agencies. Detectives combed through every detail of Tyler's life, determined to understand how a seemingly normal teenager could commit such a violent act. They began by examining his social media activity, which had become a crucial piece of evidence. The Snapchat posts Tyler had shared were both shocking and revealing. They showed an eerie detachment, as if he were observing the crime rather than participating in it. Investigators noted the timing, angles, and content of the posts, which suggested Tyler had carefully considered how he would present his actions to the online world. Interviews with friends, neighbors, and classmates painted a more complex picture. Some described Tyler as quiet and thoughtful, while others admitted he had grown increasingly withdrawn and unpredictable over the past year. He spent long hours alone in his room, often glued to his phone or the computer, sometimes laughing at content that others found disturbing. Detectives began to see patterns. Tyler had immersed himself in violent media, obsessively consumed information about crime, and experimented with increasingly dark ideas. The warning signs had been subtle, easily dismissed by those around him, yet they formed a chilling roadmap leading to the tragic event. Physical evidence supported the narrative emerging from digital records. Forensics confirmed the timeline of the murder, revealing the precision and premeditation behind Tyler's actions. Items purchased in the days prior, tools, household items, and materials for concealment showed that this was not a spontaneous act of anger. Surveillance footage from nearby streets and stores provided additional confirmation, capturing Tyler moving deliberately and calmly before and after the murder. His actions suggested a calculated intelligence, a level of planning that contrasted sharply with his teenage appearance and demeanor. As investigators pieced together Tyler's movements and mindset, it became clear that social media had played a dual role. It was both a stage and a witness. Tyler had sought validation from his peers, sharing evidence of his crime to elicit reactions, but in doing so, he had also left a trail that would ultimately lead law enforcement to him. The investigation highlighted the dangers of digital culture when combined with hidden psychological instability. Each discovery deepened the sense of disbelief and horror, as the community struggled to reconcile the teenager they thought they knew with the one capable of such deliberate and callous violence. News of Samantha Rivers' murder spread through the community like wildfire. Parents whispered anxiously at school gates, neighbors exchanged worried glances, and local businesses saw a sudden tension settle over the streets. People struggled to reconcile the horrifying reality with the family they had admired for years. The Rivers had always seemed like the perfect household, the kind of family people used as an example of stability and care. Now, that illusion had been shattered, replaced by fear, confusion, and grief. The idea that a teenage son could commit such a brutal act against his own mother was almost impossible for many to comprehend. Social media amplified the shock. Tyler's Snapchat posts had been shared beyond his immediate circle, spreading rapidly across local and national networks. Each image and caption drew outrage and disbelief, sparking heated debates about the role of technology in modern life. Experts weighed in, questioning how social media might influence young minds and whether platforms inadvertently encourage harmful behavior by offering instant attention and validation. The case became a cautionary tale, highlighting how online visibility could intersect with hidden psychological struggles to devastating effect. Schools and community centers scrambled to respond. Counselors offered support to students who had been friends with Tyler, trying to address trauma and confusion. Teachers and administrators spoke with parents, emphasizing the need to monitor children's online activity and look for warning signs of distress or violent tendencies. Psychologists were called upon to explain how someone so young could commit such an extreme act, often citing traits like emotional detachment, thrill-seeking behavior, and a lack of empathy. The case became a topic of discussion far beyond the Rivers neighborhood, serving as a grim reminder that appearances could be deceiving, and danger could hide behind a facade of normalcy. For the community, the shock turned into fear and vigilance. Parents questioned their children's friendships, neighbors scrutinized their surroundings, and everyone began to wonder if they had missed signs of distress in the teens around them. The once trusted environment of schools and homes now felt fragile and uncertain. People grappled with a profound sense of betrayal not just by Tyler, but by the idea that such violence could occur without warning. The tragedy forced a reevaluation of trust, safety, and the role of technology in daily life. Even as law enforcement continued their investigation, the community remained haunted by what had happened in the Rivers home. Conversations, social media posts, and local news coverage kept the case alive in people's minds, turning it into a lasting symbol of modern horror, a young life steeped in secrecy and violence, exposed for the world to see. The collective shock lingered, leaving an indelible mark on everyone who had believed in the illusion of safety and perfection. Tyler Rivers' arrest sent shockwaves through the town. Law enforcement had gathered enough evidence to charge him with first-degree murder, and the teenager was taken into custody without resistance. The calm demeanor he had displayed before and after the crime now seemed even more chilling in the context of the charges. Police carefully documented his online activity, realizing that the social media posts not only provided evidence of the murder but also demonstrated a disturbing desire for recognition and attention. Tyler's case quickly attracted national media coverage, with reporters analyzing every detail of the crime, his personality, and his online behavior. As the trial approached, the courtroom became a stage for a complex story of family, secrecy, and psychological instability. Prosecutors painted a picture of premeditation, emphasizing the meticulous planning Tyler had undertaken and the emotional detachment he had displayed. They highlighted how he had manipulated his social media audience, broadcasting parts of the crime as if to invite scrutiny and approval. Defense attorneys struggled to explain the motivations of a teenager whose actions seemed incomprehensible, focusing on his age, mental state, and exposure to violent media. The trial revealed chilling details about the inner world of a young mind capable of calculating such a heinous act while simultaneously maintaining the appearance of normalcy to those around him. Psychologists called to testify described Tyler as having traits of extreme detachment, limited empathy, and a heightened need for stimulation. They suggested that his obsession with online validation may have amplified tendencies toward thrill-seeking and risk-taking, contributing to the tragic outcome. Friends and neighbors recounted their shock, admitting that the Tyler they knew bore little resemblance to the person in court. The contrast between the public image of a polite, well-behaved teenager and the private reality of his thoughts and actions left the community struggling to reconcile the two. The verdict was swift, and Tyler was sentenced to life in a juvenile facility with limited possibility of early release. For Michael, the surviving parent, the sentence offered no comfort, only the grim acknowledgement of the loss of his wife and the shattering of their family. Psychologists and educators continued to use the case as a study in warning signs, trying to understand how such violence could arise in a seemingly ordinary household. The community, meanwhile, grappled with lingering fear and grief, struggling to make sense of the tragedy that had unfolded in their midst. Even years later, the memory of Samantha S.'s death and Tyler S.'s posts on Snapchat remained a haunting reminder of how fragile safety can be, how appearances can deceive, and how social media can turn private horror into public spectacle. The case left a lasting impact, a chilling example of a young life gone tragically wrong, and a cautionary tale for parents, educators, and society at large.